Okay, guys, so we'll get started now. So welcome to the 2021 Great Aussie Hike Participant Safety Briefing. Running the session myself, tonight will be myself, Anna, I'm the Event Safety Officer, and Carline, our Event Controller, who you'll be chatting to lots throughout the event. We've also got Karaya on the line, and she'll be one of our lead wellness stop coordinators. Well, all our event crew and volunteers will be very focused on your safety and getting you from the start to the finish. It will primarily be Carline and I that will be focusing on this throughout the 2 days. We therefore thank you for taking an active role in this process by attending this evening. We are recording this session for those who were unable to participate tonight. At the end of the session, if you have asked a question and your name's flashed up on the screen and you don't want to be part of the recording, just send us an email. It's very easy to edit it out. It's a lot harder for us to stop and start recording. If you have any questions, just add them in the chat bar down the bottom. Karaya's keeping an eye on that and we'll get to them at the end of the night. We'll just admit a few more people. So for tonight's briefing, we're primarily going off what we've already sent out to you in the team packs and in the support crew guide. So there's nothing really new except for a few of the safety issues that we want to go through. The reason that we're sticking with the team pack format for tonight is so that it is easy for you to go back over it over the next week, go through what we've talked about and really make sure that you've prepared yourself. Preparation for an endurance event is extremely important, especially when completing such long distances. We cannot emphasize enough how important what you do over the next week what role that plays with you when it comes to being on course next week. We also want to keep things moving fairly quickly tonight. Everyone's quite busy and we don't want to be spending too long going over stuff, especially for those of you who have already attended or watched the information safety briefing. There's a lot of stuff that's already online for those of you who do want to go back over that stuff. The best place is to go to our YouTube channel and watch all the information sessions. There's lots and lots of stuff that's also been in all the newsletters through our Facebook page and stuff. But we did think instead of going over the whole 1.5 hour information briefing again, we're just going to start off with just revisiting what Liz from Snowy River Cycling said about the course. It's just a really good way to get us into a good frame of mind before hitting it next week and making sure that the information's all fresh.
The way I usually describe the rail trail to people is to say that the most important thing to remember is that it is on the old train alignment. So the gradients on the trail are train gradients and trains just cannot do steep hills. So as a trail, it is rarely dead flat. It's nearly always going either up a little bit or down a little bit. But those are on very, very mild gradients. As walkers, they are so mild that you will barely really even notice them. The only places that there are exceptions to that is where the trains used to go over gullies, and in some places those gullies were spanned by bridges. None of those bridges are able to be walked over. So there's about 3 spots, without counting too hard, there's about 3 spots where the trail suddenly drops reasonably steeply down into a gully and then comes reasonably steeply back up the other side to get you back up onto that level. So you're talking at the most maybe 100 metres of an up or down that might actually get your heart rate up. But the rest of the trail, the gradients are so mild that you'd have to kind of run to get your heart rate ticking and up. So in terms of hills, this is not a steep course. It is very, very mild undulations, except for, as I say, those spots where it drops down into gullies where the trains were able to span across on timber bridges, some of which still exist. And there's a beautiful one that you've seen in one of these photos that are here. All of the towns that are along the trail are at about 40 metres above sea level, i.e. really not very much, 20 metres above sea level. All of the towns that are on the trail are on waterways that are virtually at the ocean. Orbost is on the Snowy River, Nowa is at one end of Lake Tyers, Bruthen is on the Tambo River, and Bairnsdale is on the Nicholson River, and they're all just about at their end, so they're barely above sea level. And the highest point on the whole trail is a dizzying 120 metres above sea level. And getting up to that 120 metres above sea level, You will get there from not very much at all over about 7 kilometres. Like, that is such a grindingly tiny gradient that, like, you're just hardly even going to notice it, other than those dips in and out of a couple of those gullies. So in terms of terrain, forget about, you know, bringing your grappling hooks or your ice crampons to conquer tall mountains. It's not going to happen. From a walker's point of view, it will feel pretty much like a level path. And I think you wanted me to talk a little bit about the trail surface. Nod happily if that's what you want me to, a little bit about the surface.
That would be great. We've had a few questions about that.
Sure, okay. So to my cycling clients, I describe this trail as mostly hard-packed gravel, kind of like a driveway. It's for people on bikes, which isn't a great comparison point, sorry for all you walkers, but I'm a little bit bike oriented. For people on bikes, I say you don't need a mountain bike to do this. You might want something with fatter tyres than a skinny tyred road bike, because it's gravel, it's not smooth. The easternmost end of the trail is where the gravel is coarsest in a few spots, but as walkers you can pick your alignment along the trail that you walk on. There's always a smoother or rougher bit of the trail. So this is not, it is not rough terrain. It's a formed hard-packed gravel trail that, as long as you're not expecting a bowling green or a concrete path, you'll find really straightforward to walk on.
Liz, if people wanted a break from the hard surface, is there room to the side of the trail to walk on a bit of grass, or it's pretty where the railway line was?
Not really, no, because it's the trail, the railway alignment is either passing through forest, a lot of it's through forest, and where it's not forest, it's pretty much a tree corridor, because the old railway alignments were quite wide, and they have mostly reverted back to trees. The great thing is that means that there is little wind impact on most of this trail. Again, as walkers, that's not a huge thing, but you've nearly always got some tree cover that breaks up any strong wind. For cyclists, I say that the wind is not your primary concern on this trail. You're not going to be exposed because it's mostly got that sort of tree cover. But in terms of walking surface, it means that the edges on either side of the trail are mostly really rough grass, hummocky, or under trees. So no, you pretty much will be restricted to that trail surface itself.
So we'll just fly through these other couple of slides that are part of your team pack. Again, it's all stuff that we've covered and it's easy stuff for you to read through. And we'll start by having a chat about the actual start line. So there's only 3 things that you need to do at the start line, and that's collect your race bibs and your race buff and pop them on. Team captains need to collect a team radio. And then we capture the moment with an official team photo against the media wall. So it's not very much going on, not a lot happening. Teams will still need to be required to social distance at the start line. Our event is different from something like the MCG where everybody does get a seat. Because we have people that are moving, we do have different requirements and restrictions on us. But there's no need to rush at the start. So a lot of the starts do have a single file section to get onto the trail. So rushing to get through the start arch, there's no advantage, because then you just get stuck in a bottleneck. So our 100-kilometre teams, the site will open at 5:30 a.m. and then we'll have this rolling start between 6 and 6:05 a.m. So it will only take 5 minutes to get onto the course, so don't stress. The 100-kilometre walkers then have 3 kilometres walking out of Orbost and through the country area a little bit until you hit the rail trail. We'll stay with you until you get safely onto the trail. The 60-kilometre teams, your site will open at 5:45 a.m. and all teams will depart together at 6 a.m. You've just got 1 kilometre to walk around now an hour, and again, we'll stay with you to get you onto the trail. Remember the 60 and the 100-kilometre teams, it's 6 o'clock in the morning, it is going to be cold, it is going to be dark. We cannot let you on course in these conditions without you having your day-night high-vis vest on and your head torch. Anyone not wearing these won't be allowed on course until the next wellness stop. The 30-kilometre teams, you're starting in daylight, so the site will open at 10 a.m. and we'll be doing a rolling start between 10:30 and 10:40. If you do decide to arrive at 10 o'clock, come in, grab your stuff, get your photo, and then feel free to go and visit the local businesses. The start line is in the main street of Bruthen, so it's quite easy to get back by 10:25. When you start with the 30-kilometre teams, we're going to cross over Church Street, walk a little bit down Sterling Street, and then enter the trail. It is a very narrow entrance here, and this is one place that there could be a bottleneck. So please don't be stressing getting over the line down the little bit. Just take it easy. You all have this information on the wellness stops, which gives you some really good details on the opening and closing times, what's available at every stop. Please support our local community groups that are at a number of stops doing some food sales. This is a way that they are doing fundraising. A lot of these groups work very hard helping out the bushfire affected areas, and they have not been able to do any fundraising for the last 12 months. So they're incredibly excited. They've been spending a lot of time and effort and money getting everything ready for you guys. So please support them in return. Note that at Bunbury, it is definitely 100% only cash. And they're still trying at Tosteree to see whether they'll have card. But please make sure that you've got both card and cash to be able to support them. In regards to everything else, we weren't able to get access to the club rooms at the start line for the 100 kilometres. They just didn't want anybody using them. So there is a public toilet about 300 metres away. It is dark at that time of the day. So if you are getting there early and having a coffee and wanting to quickly go to the toilet before you get started, make sure that you get your support crew just to run you down. I know it's close, but it is just easy to jump in a car and go down. In regards to parking on site, most of our sites do have parking right beside the site. The only ones are Calhoun, which we'll talk a little bit about later, and then at Bruthen, because we're the hall in the main street, there's no actual car park, but there's lots of parking in the street and down the side street, so you're very close. And at Bunbury, for the support crew there, they just park across the road from where the actual site is. So again, that's relatively close. So at each wellness stop, it's really important that teams take the time to check in and check out of the information booth. This is how we're doing our COVID contact tracing without you guys having to, every single person, scan into every single event site with a QR code reader. Because they are all individual sites, we do have to record who is at each site at each time. So if you just check in, it's just going to be a really quick, we've got all the team numbers listed on a piece of paper on a clipboard, and our staff will just quickly circle off your team and put a time number. This is just the way that we thought was going to be the quickest to meet this obligation. Other team members are allowed at the wellness stops, but remember that they must have their support, their race bib on, so that we know that they are part of the event. Family and friends that aren't registered are not allowed onto the event sites as part of this COVID regulations. So make sure, especially, that your support crew members are wearing their race bib. We've got signs out on course that say when there's 2 kilometres to the wellness stop and 1 kilometre to the wellness stop. So make sure that you do notify your support crew and let them know when you're expecting to get there. We'll have 30-minute time limits applied during peak periods at these sites, when we do have to be careful about the number of people that we've got there. Our biggest concern with this one is Bunbury, because it is our small rural site. During quieter periods, teams can rest for longer, but we really do encourage you to prepare and only plan for a 30-minute stop. It is very hard if you start to cool down and relax to get back up, and you've still got a lot of kilometres to go from that position. All teams must depart the wellness stops by their closing times, and these are all being designed to try and get you all to the finish line, hopefully by the latest 11 p.m. Obviously, we are giving 60-kilometre teams a little bit longer, but if you stick with the time limits, you should be home by 11. Wellness stop 4 in Calhoun, so that is in the middle of the regional park. So that's quite a remote location that we've got our wellness stop there. It's also where the 100-kilometre teams will leave the course, and they'll return to the same place on Saturday morning. It's only accessible via a dirt road, and there's only room for 2 cars to pull up at a time. So on Saturday morning, we do have traffic management there. So we need you to pull up, people jump out of the car, move your car along. There's no parking and going and waving people off or anything there. We need everyone to keep moving. Anybody who's a school parent who's been going through the school drive-through pickup with COVID, it's just going to be exactly the same as that. Teams, just remember to pick up your radio from the wellness stop there before you head off down the track. 60-kilometre support crews who do want to be at this site, please let us know so that we can try and coordinate a time that you're not running in at the same time as all the 100Kers trying to get back on course. And so this is just a little bit more of details about the food vendors that are on course. This slide is part of the support crew guide. So we're not going to go through it in detail now. It's just there for you to open up and have a bit of a read through later on. It's another really important thing to us is whether you've just been a support crew member or whether you've been a relay team or whoever has been involved in your team getting towards the finish line, please go out and walk the last 500 kilometres together, as long as obviously you're not injured and able to. But where the rail trail ends across the road from Howard Park in Bairnsdale, where that big star is, if you are keeping in touch with your team and know when they're going to hit there, make sure that you go and meet them there, and then you can walk around this red line, round the last 500 metres and all cross over the finish line and get your medals together. We're really lucky that things have been improving with COVID, and touch wood, nothing's going to happen over the next week, which will mean that where at some stage we thought it may be you cross the finish line and get in your car and drive off, we now can have a little bit of a celebration. And we're really excited that we're able to offer this to some local community groups as a fundraising opportunity. So again, to meet with the requirements that we've got with COVID, and obviously they're going to set up a bit of a mini bar, so there's a liquor licensing requirements, is that it's just going to be 2 event sites. And when we say 2 event sites, they're literally on the same piece of grass. It's more just some bunting that's separating the 2 areas. So our area does have the medal collection, the finisher photos, first aid, massage. We are allowing family and friends to come into this section if you've got people at the finish line to see you and want to come and give you a hug as you get your medal. They just need to sign in. This will be the only place that will have the QR code reader that they need to sign in. And then obviously the other site, they've got some, they're making some lovely hamburgers. So we're talking about pies and homemade cakes the other day. Nicholson Hotel is helping them out with a bit of a mini bar. Last chat was beer, champagne, gin and bourbon and Coke. So enough to hopefully let you have a little bit of a celebration together. It's also right at the finish line. So it means that those people who do finish, make sure you stay around, support these groups, but also cheer on everybody else that's coming across the line. Anyone who doesn't have accommodation yet, please let us know so that we can help you out with that. In terms of preparation, with training and stuff, you should definitely be in the tapering stage. Please do not go out and try and exhaust yourself with a really long walk this weekend. So we've got the equipment checklist here that's easy for you guys to go through and have a read of. Hopefully you've already read this pack so that you've got a bit of an idea. Just remember the compulsory items are really important. So don't just focus on the compulsory items for yourself. Make sure that there's someone in your team that's nominated to have those team items, or you might want to separate them. But you definitely need to have that first aid kit and the battery charger, 1 per team out on course. Remember, if the person who's carrying them does rest for a section, you need to swap them over and give them back to somebody else so that those items do stay on course with you. For those who were here at the start, we did have a few minutes at the start to make sure that everyone can start downloading these apps. Again, they're all in your team pack. So if you haven't already done so, pull that out at the end of tonight and download these tonight. So it's just a job you can tick off your list. If you haven't yet had a team meeting and started making a team plan, this is a slide out of the support crew guide. It's really important that by the end of the weekend, you guys have caught up and started to think about some of these items. It's a little bit late the night before to be thinking about some of these things. So make sure you do that. Also think about how you're going to set up your support crew vehicle. We do recommend the tubs are something that work really, really well. So there's one for everybody that they can just pop all their stuff in, easy to find. You don't want to be spending a long time at wellness stops, unpacking a car, everyone rifling through stuff, putting it back in, especially if it starts raining or anything like that. You want to have it really quick and easy that everyone can find what they need when they need it. And again, this is all in the support crew guide. It's important when you're thinking about food, not just think about what's on the course, think about what you're going to eat the night before, especially if you're traveling to the region. And then what you're going to eat in the morning. If you're getting up at 5 o'clock, have you already got something available? What can you be eating? Do not hit the course without having had breakfast. All right, some of the rules and the guidelines. The first thing we'd like to talk about is trail etiquette. This trail is open to the public, so there will be other people on it while we are out on course. We're going to have cyclists, there's going to be horse riding. When we've gone down and done the trail, there's been some people on some pretty amped up electric bikes. There'll be runners and other walkers. So just be mindful that it is a public trail, and they've just got as much right as us, probably more right because they're local to the area. Make sure that you stay to the left of the trail being overtaken by someone. This could be if someone's overtaking you from behind or if someone is coming from the opposite direction. The other thing that we'll need you to move right over to the left is if we need to send a vehicle down the course, if there's been a medical emergency or something else going on and we need to get help to somebody, we won't be obviously flying so fast that we're going to injure you. They will be obviously moving at a safe speed, but the quicker that you can get off the course and get out of the road, it means that we can get through and help somebody as quickly as we possibly can. There's also a lot of road crossings that we need to cover. These are often covering country roads that are 100 k's an hour, that there are cars that are local and are used to the roads, not used to large numbers of people crossing. We have applied to Vic roads and we'll be having traffic management reducing a lot of these intersections to 40 k's an hour, and the big major roads will have traffic management crossing you, but you still need to take caution at all time. Don't take it for granted that because it is 40 k's, they have dropped to 40 k's. I know they're supposed to, but they're going to do more damage to you, so be careful. There's also trucks that use Lake Calhoun Road for our 60 and 100 kilometre walkers. They use that as a thoroughfare to get around. We have been in contact with the companies. They've told us that they've told all their drivers, but again, be very aware. The boundary to our event site is quite close to the road. We'll put traffic bollards and stuff up. Just make sure that you stay on the event side of that. Don't be kind of milling out and going, oh, it's a country road, no one will be here. And, kind of going standing on the dirt road to spread out a little bit, spread out into the bush, not onto the road. It's also really important that you leave no trace that we have been on this trail. It's important to respect the trail. There's an amazing volunteer committee who manages and cares for it. And there's also all the locals who use it. There's absolutely no excuse, we're all adults, for there to be even one piece of litter dropped onto the course. If you're worried about rubbish, make sure that you pack a small freezer bag, and then you can, collect all your rubbish as you walk along, keep it in your pack. When you get to the wellness stop, we've got lots of bins, drop it out and do the same thing next time. But yeah, we really need to be mindful of that. The other thing that we need to leave no trace of is any human feces. We know that things can happen that you might not be out of your control. I'm sure nobody would mean to have to leave anything, but if you do, you need to clean it up. Especially with COVID, it's not actually legal for anybody else to do, and there's nowhere for you to hide and go to the toilet, so people will know that it's you. So just if you need help cleaning it up and more supplies, let us know. But yeah, it will be your responsibility to help out with that. The challenge rules are all listed on our website under the challenge tab. So it's really important that you go through and have a read of those. We're just going to tick off a couple of these tonight, but make sure that you do go and have a good look through the whole list. So team members need to stay within 200 metres of each other on course. There may be times that you want to all be together. There may be times you want to break off into groups. There may be times that you just need to have a little bit of time all by yourself. That is fine. You just need to stay safe, close enough together that if there is an emergency, you can all see and yell and come back as a team and help each other. That's why we do have you not walking as individuals down. It's for safety. So you need to keep that going, even if you need a little bit of distance at some point along the day. Teams must arrive and depart all the wellness stops together. There are time limits at the wellness stops and on course that must be adhered to. The high-vis day-night vests and head torch must be worn in low light. So this is all the 60 and 100 kilometres when you're starting, and anybody who's on course after 5:30 at night. If you're a 30K walker and you're going to cross the finish line before 5:30, you don't need to worry about this. Race bibs must be worn on top of all layers of clothing, and this includes a coat. So we must be able to see your race bib number at all times. This is a really big safety requirement. It's also really important, therefore, that participants do not go swapping race bibs and you're like, I can't walk, I'll get my friend to do it for me. Here, just take my bib. They won't really know. It's actually really, really dangerous. We've got so much information linked to that number and to who you are. Yeah, we can end up giving you the wrong medical treatment, all that sort of stuff. So it's just not smart. Talk to us about stuff instead of just trying to do little things like that. Support crews are responsible for ensuring the team's resources and equipment are at every wellness stop. This includes your food provisions. You remember we've already talked about support crew must have their race bibs on. So the radios with the GPS tracking must be carried at all times on course, and it's the team captain's responsibility that this is safely returned to us at the end of the 100 kilometres at both days and the 60 and 30 kilometres by Saturday night. Remember that you need to carry the compulsory equipment that we've already had a run through. And again, a really big one is that we don't leave any team member ever alone, and that we do listen to throughout the day if different things are changing with emergency services, or Caroline in the control centre is giving out different instructions. You do need to listen to them, even if you don't agree with them. You just need to do, because we've got bigger picture where we're organising everything. And also there's traffic management in place for a reason. So you need to listen to them and cross when they tell you to cross. It's not to be trying to cross and going, oh, I'm not waiting for you, I'm going to run across. Just to double check that everyone understands what a day-night high-vis vest is, the day-night one does have the reflective strips on it, as you can see in this picture with the green tick. The day ones are no good at nighttime because there's nothing that you can see at night, so there's no point even putting it on. So this is a safety requirement for you walking in the dark, so you do need to have a vest or something that has those reflective strips. I think someone messaged at some stage and talked about a cyclist reflective strips. That's fine. We just need something that cars can see. And of course, I think we all know enough about COVID that we really don't need to go over this. We just have to tick the box with that one as well. So one of the biggest things that we need to talk about tonight is what if a team member gets injured on course. This is the most likely out of every situation that we'll come up with, that is something that will actually happen. So this is a really good one to take notice of. Coming back to our race bibs and how that whole system works, is the team number is the first 3 digits on your race bib. The race bibs are also color coordinated. So the 100Ks are blue, the 60Ks are red, and the 30Ks are yellow. And this is something, if you've been noticing our website or listened to our earlier briefings, that's just how we color coordinate those 3 different distances. So that's the first thing we do. Then, the first 3 numbers is your team number, then the dash, and then the number after that is your team member number. So for example, if you're team 331-4, we know that you're in team 331 and you're the 4th participant when we go into our database and we're getting things like your medical history, your emergency contact, all that other stuff. That's all linked to this. The back of your race bib also has the number for the event control center and some basic information. If there's a first responder on site that hasn't actually got in touch with us, they've got some basic details about you just on the bib there. Again, really important not to swap with anybody else. If the incident you have on course is life-threatening, do not waste time calling us. You need to call 000 straight away. This is things like if somebody's not breathing, there's obviously no time to be mucking around. So you need to call them immediately. One of the reasons we got you to download the Emergency Plus app before is because you're probably going to be there. It's a little bit frantic. You're a little bit stressed and you're thinking, I don't know where I am. I'm on the East Gippsland Rail Trail somewhere. Can't remember the last road I crossed. If you open that or one of your team members opens that app and clicks on it, it will automatically give you coordinates that you can relay to emergency services and they will pinpoint your exact location and get to you significantly faster than if you're sitting there trying to go, oh, I've got to try and figure out where I am. Again, you're in a team. If you're in a position that you can also call us, that would be great. But the most important thing is obviously to call 000 straight away. If there's a spare person or another team coming past, call the Event Control Centre, get hold of Carline, because that means that we can also connect you with Medical Edge Australia, who are our first aid providers. They have a paramedic and a clinician that will be on call for the whole weekend. So that means that they can start providing you with instructions that you can start helping out why emergency services are getting to you. And this is also the reason why you need to carry that team first aid kit. That is a list of things that Medical Edge has asked for you to have, so that when they're on the phone with you, they can say, grab this out, I need you to do this with that. So it's not just any old first aid kit. We actually need those items that are listed there. And it may be a life or death situation that you can having that and getting that information, you can save one of your teammates' life. It's also really important to make sure that if there's other teams and participants around, that you let them know that you're in an emergency situation and that you do need help. There are a lot of people on course who have training and are experienced in these types of situations that will be able to assist, you know, as an immediate responder while we're getting help to you. If you're in an area that you have no phone reception, what we found when we've been out on course is that it was pretty good for Telstra, a little bit more dodgy for like Vodafone. We had a lot more trouble with that type of service. But with Telstra, we were able to kind of walk up and down the trail. I could usually get it within about 5 meters. So don't just, as a first thing, if you're on the phone, just walk around a little bit. You might get it straight away. We also, as we're saying, that you've also got this radio that you're carrying for the GPS tracking so we can see where you are. But that also means that you can pull it out and use it as a radio. So don't worry about memorizing this. We're going to give you a little printout you can have with the radio. So don't think you've got to memorize tonight how to use a radio. But there is an emergency button that you can press straight away that will alarm us and go, hey, there's something really wrong with this team. We've got a buggy on course. We will, you know, obviously send them straight to you, you know, while you're still getting reception. You can change to channel 2, and this is our emergency line. And you can press the button down and then talk to Carline and get some further help. If the radio doesn't have any signal, which is just a couple of little small places throughout Calhoun Regional Park, again, if you keep moving around, you'll find a spot. And again, this is why you're in teams with groups of people. If it's a non-life-threatening incident, which is what we hope the large majority of incidences are, this is where you just directly call event control on the number. Again, it's the number on screen. It's the number we got you to put in your phone, and it's the number on the back of your race bib. And this is where you contact Carline, tell her what's going on, and she'll provide further instructions, get help to you, whatever needs to be done. You can also, again, if it's just something like you've got a participant, you know, a team member who's really tired and they're like, we can't go on, and you're just sitting there, also start letting your support crew know that maybe they're having a nice lunch somewhere. It's time for them to get the bill and get in the car and start making their way towards you. We will actually get in contact with support crew and tell them exactly where they're going to pick you up, because it may be, if you're in a section, you know, they can't come driving down the course. So it may mean we've got to get the participant, pick them up in the buggy, get them out to a road. So we'll say, meet us on this road at this time, that sort of thing. But if they can start moving towards that location already, it saves time and gets our buggy back out helping other people. The other thing is you might just have somebody who just says, no, I've had enough, and I know there's a road crossing up here, and I've already rung the support crew, and I'm going to jump in the car and have a little bit of a rest. That's okay. I mean, obviously we need you to do it safely and not be pulling up on a 100K freeway and, you know, in the road of everybody else. But you do need to tell us if you do take somebody off course, because we are, you know, keeping a monitor of everyone who's on course. And if there is an incident that happens and we're thinking we've got a lost participant, just let us know so we can know. If that member just needs to have a little bit of a rest and they have a couple of hours off course, they're more than welcome to rejoin the team at the next wellness stop, but they do have to wait for a team to get to the wellness stop. They can't just be jumping on and off the course at different places. With any luck, we will not have to do an evacuation from course, but it's still really important for us to think about it and be aware of how we're going to do this. Primarily, the reason we would do an evacuation from course is due to a weather incident, like pretty severe wind, or if there was some bad lightning coming. So we're all probably keeping an eye on the weather and got a bit of an idea before the start of the day. It's a bit of an iffy day, and we've probably already had conversations at the start line anyway, but there are times that weather can change very quickly and unpredictably or escalate quite quickly. So it is something to really be aware of. The radio that we give you, leave it, we'll have it set to channel 1, leave it on this channel at all times. This is what we will broadcast any emergency announcements through. So listen very carefully to the instructions as they come through. Don't panic if you don't catch it all, because it's in your bag and you can hear it making noise and you've got to stop and find it. We will obviously in an emergency keep repeating instructions. The Ride with GPS map that you downloaded and can now link into our course map, this is where we've got all the road crossings very, very clearly marked. So you can start to figure out where you are, where's the next road crossing, what is the quickest way for you to get off the course? Are you going to move ahead to the next road crossing, or are you going to turn around and go backwards? We're not going to be doing an evacuation where you've got to make a split second. Like, we're going to be calling it in advance. So that you've got that. Just take a couple of minutes to go work out your bearings, where you are, and work out the best direction to go. If you're unsure, keep moving forward, because we are tracking you. So we'll see that you keep moving forward and we'll make contact to help you get organised. We'll also be sending, we're getting to this stage, we're now sending an SMS to all team members. So this includes your support crew, and any team members not on course are also getting that notification and aware what's going. So support crew, you want to start contacting your team members, seeing if they know where they are and if it's safe for you to go and pick them up, because obviously we just need to get everybody off course as quickly as possible. So support crew can play a really important role with this. If you can then send a text message to the event control center to say, I've got team 331 and we're all good to go, just so that because obviously we're going to be working really hard to get everybody sorted out. If you can then take your team, don't go back to your accommodation or anything, drive up to the next wellness stop. We need you to go there, because then again, we can double check, make sure we've got all your team members, you're all sorted out, we can tick you off. It could also be something where if it is a weather incident, it may be just you need to stay here for an hour and then you can go back onto course. So don't think it's the end of the day. Our main aim would be to get you out on course again if it is safe and everything settles back down again. But just come to the wellness stop. We can all regroup, see what's happening. If we need to call it for the day, we can then do it from there and you can go off to accommodation. We've also got, don't be too stressed if your support crew can't get to you. We've also got vehicles and big Dyson's buses on standby. This will especially be for the 30-kilometre walkers who don't have a support crew following them down the trail. Dyson's will come and, you'll be a lot more bunched together. So we will be getting you to those stops and off the course very quickly. Another important thing to do is really to worry about your health on course. So we're just going to go back and revisit Brodie from Medical Edge Australia, what he gave us a chat about in the information briefing, because it's really important stuff that will be helpful for you guys working, if we can go where it is.
Perspective.
Thanks, Anna, and thanks so much for having me tonight. It's a pleasure to be involved in such a well-organised event. It's been a dream so far, and I'm sure it's going to continue. I'm just going to share my screen if I can. I just want to take you through a few things, and I'm conscious of time, so I'm not going to take up too much of your time. Can someone give me a nod to see if they can see that screen? Yep. Thanks, Crystal. Cool. So welcome, and firstly, good luck. I'm looking forward to seeing you on course in a few months' time. But there's a couple of things, and we'll probably start with the heavier things first. There's a few considerations for when you're attending a remote event. Firstly, you do have some limited access to health services and prolonged ambulance response times, but we're putting a lot of planning in place around that as well. So we'll have mobile first responders, potentially have some mobile paramedics as well dedicated to the event, and then paramedics or first aid staff at all the wellness stops. Just be conscious that the weather can change pretty quickly, so you need to pack appropriately for that. And also in your phone, if you can add our medic number, it's really useful because it allows you to contact the medic in charge in real time. If you've got phone reception, you can call our 04888 medic phone number at any time, 24/7 throughout the event period. We'll be able to send you some help. So it's not there to replace 000. We still want you to use 000 in your GPS alert if you've got a real emergency coming up. But if you've got a minor or moderate sort of first aid incident that you want some help with, certainly call us on our medic number at any time. Make sure you can charge your phone so you can actually get onto us. It's really important. And have some medications. If you've got any prescribed medications, have them for at least a storage for 24 hours, just in case something was to happen and you were cut off for a period of time, which is very unlikely with all the planning that's gone on in place. And have ample food, and certainly have some electrolyte therapy. So you need to have some sort of Gatorade or electrolyte replacement drinks, because you're going to be losing a lot of electrolytes through your sweat. Some of the things that we would likely see at your event is some soft tissue injuries, in particular rolled ankles or limb injuries, and blisters. I'm going to have a little bit of a chat around blisters and what they look like and some of the prevention around it. I'm conscious of time as well, because we're obviously running a bit behind time, but I won't take too long. And a little bit about environmental exposure, because you will potentially, if the weather is warm, there's potential for hypothermia and dehydration, and we may have some bites and stings to manage as well. So that's sort of some of the things that may pop up, but with good preparation, it's very unlikely that it's going to happen to you. So it's all about being organised. One thing that I did want to touch base on is blister prevention and management. Now, one thing around blisters is they're entirely preventable. So if you've got a good quality pair of boots or shoes that are worn in, you've got a spare pair of shoes, you've got good quality socks, and you're managing your hike, you'll probably avoid this. But if you haven't done long walks before, then you may be in for a bit of an interesting journey if you haven't been prepared. So the likely ones you'll see like hip heels, blisters on your heels or under your heels or on the heel edge. The heel edge one is quite common in endurance events, so just be conscious of that. And there's a few things, little tips I'll give you, and a few things you can buy to make it a little bit easier on you. But you need to recognise that blisters in the early stages, and when we look after a lot of the fire services, and when they're out in their rural, in remote areas fighting fire, and we manage blisters as either preventative or really early stages. So we're looking, if you start to develop what we call hot spots, sore spots on your feet where a blister's starting to develop, we want you to manage it then and there. So we want you to take your socks off, have a good look at your feet, try and identify what the cause of the blister is. And blisters are always caused by friction generally. So you might need to add another pair of socks in. You might need to use some Blister Block or other first aid product to try and reduce friction on your feet. And then you can manage that and hopefully prevent it getting any worse from there. So there's a few great products on the market, none of which we formally endorse as such, but certainly worth looking at. But we want to prevent blisters from right from the start. That's our aim. So if you're getting any hot spots, that's sort of almost too late. We want you to actually get there before then. And there's some great products out there, particularly anti-blister socks that are really useful. But you don't have to go out and spend a fortune by any means. Just be conscious that there is some things you can invest in to make your event and make your walk a lot more comfortable. You can see on the screen the Blister Block or the Band-Aid Advanced Healing. We use that all the time for long distance and endurance events. It's really useful. We'll have some of it with us in all our first aid kits, but it's a really good idea for you when you're on the track to have some in your bag and your kit as well. So if blisters do pop up, we want you to treat them as an open wound, essentially, if they're broken, and just do some basic first aid care until you can see us at the wellness stops. We want you to monitor it, and if you can treat it early, you'll have a far better time on your walk. There's a few things that you can buy, put it on your shopping list. So firstly, really good quality socks is really important. You need to probably invest in some Blister Block or some first aid product and some good quality insoles as well as having some spare shoes. So get your support team to have some spare shoes so you can really prevent these blisters from occurring. Make sure you've got plenty of socks. It doesn't hurt to have 2 or 3 pairs of socks in your bag so you can change them out if you need to. Now, I'm going to take you through a couple of things. Now, I'm not going to talk over all this, but just to give you an understanding of what you might see, particularly with dehydration and heat exposure. It's quite common in endurance events. We often see dehydration, heat exposure, and electrolyte imbalances really commonly. So we want you to manage that as best you can. So you need to be really considerate about this and pre-hydrate before your event. So we're talking pre-hydrate of at least 500 mils a litre the night before. And then with active exercise, generally we suggest a litre an hour. So it's quite a bit. So you should be able, you can restock obviously at each of the wellness stops, but you need to be carrying quite a bit of water. And be very conscious of the signs and symptoms of mild and moderate dehydration and be watchful of your teammates. That's what your support crew is there for, but you also need to manage your teammates as well. So do what you can to look after each other as best you can. So your management for dehydration, in most cases, it's just oral fluid rehydration. So we're just talking lots of water as well as electrolyte replacement. And generally we have 2 units of water to 1 unit of electrolyte replacement. So if you're thinking, you know, how much Gatorade or electrolyte replacement drink should I be having, don't overdo it because it can cause some issues. But for every second bottle, 2 bottles of water, and your third would be some sort of electrolyte replacement drink. If you're starting to see dehydration, it's quite common that more than one person in the team is going to be dehydrated or heat affected as well. So just be very conscious to watch for your teammates and look after each other. Heat-related illness is potentially, depending on the time of the year, I know it may change a little bit depending on COVID, but heat-related illness is quite possible. And we'll have lots of eyes and ears for you, but you're the best defense to this, you and your teammates. So with heat-related illness, it's likely going to present with multiple people within the one team that have been doing the same activity to actually present with this illness. So be conscious of the early signs, so heat cramps, and prevent it from happening. And it's always closely linked to dehydration. So if we can manage our hydration, we can generally manage any complications around heat-related illness. So your management for heat-related illness is really just ceasing activity and having as much cool fluids as you can. And we want you to remove any jackets, heavy clothing. If you've got heat cramps, you can massage those to try and improve your presentation a little bit. You can use ice packs, but you want to avoid shivering at all times as well. So it's really important just to keep a close eye on each other and do a basic first aid course. We suggest at least 1 or 2 people on your team have got a first aid qualification.
Okay, guys, so let's move that on. So as Brodie was saying, it's really important to stay hydrated. So there's just a few little things that are in your team pack to go through. We'll have Aqualyte, a cup of that at each stop, but it is not going to be enough to replace the electrolytes that you're going to need out on course as well. So make sure that you're keeping an eye on that. We just like Aqualyte as it's one of the low sugar ones. Just be careful with some of the ones you're doing. They're not always the best quality products. Again, there's lots of information on snacks and nutrition. This is from the team pack, but there's also more information on this all in and lots of ideas in the support crew guide. So go and have a read through those. Here's some hints and tips about how you can help each other with injury prevention on course as well. There's things that you can be doing, your support crew, things that you can bring along, things that it's just the main thing is to catch things when they're only little. Don't think, oh, I've got a niggle, I'm going to go out and walk another 15 Ks, and then you get into the next wellness stop and you can't walk. Get some attention on it when it's only small, and that'll help you get through the whole list. We've also got a final checklist in your team packs, so that's a really good thing to make sure that you've ticked off and had everything sorted out with that before the end of the weekend. Just finally, some final words from us is we just want to have a little bit of talk about how kindness really costs nothing, but it means everything, especially considering how challenging the last year has been. It's very easy to get caught up with a negative mindset, to get caught up with what your personal circumstances might be, anxiety about the event, what else is going on, and kind of be in a position that is not the best way to be when you're around a lot of other people. There's no doubt that in general, our community is pretty much at its threshold for what we can accommodate after everything we've been through for the last year. But this is the primary reason that we set up this program and challenge. We've got to get back and remember that it's all about human connection, getting out in nature, doing something to strengthen your mental and your physical well-being, and then getting together with your friends or your family and achieving something really remarkable that will help you reset and move forward. So it's important as part of all of this to remember to be kind to yourself. Don't put so much pressure on yourself that you can't enjoy the event. We've already had 700K teams withdraw this week because they're just already panicking and getting stressed. There's no need for that. It is not we're not running the Olympics. Even if you just want to get there and you can't get through the course, just come and do a little bit of it. But don't put pressure on yourself that if you're not perfect at walking the challenge and being the perfect teammate, that you can't do it. It's not that type of event. It's also really important to be kind to your teammates and your support crew. You are spending a lot of time out on course together. Even the 30Ks, it's a really long day out on course. you know, being together. You're all going to have ups and downs along the way. So it's really important to look after each other as you're going through these ups and downs, because while someone's down, someone else will be up. So really stick together and don't go, oh, I'm really annoyed so-and-so is doing this. Just take a deep breath and go, how can I be really kind and help this person out? It's also important to remember that when you're tired and exhausted and whatever else is going on, still please try and be kind to the volunteers in the event crew that are out there that have been working really, really hard for months to get put on this opportunity for you guys to be doing it. Have a think about the messages that you might be sending before you hit send. Sometimes add a little smiley face emoji just to put a smile on their face when they're reading lots. Remember to say thank you. Give people a smile on the day and be respectful during all interactions. There's really no reason for anybody to be getting too cranky. If we all focus on making kindness a really key priority, we're all going to have a really amazing experience together. Just remember that it is a team challenge. This is not about one person doing an amazing feat and, you know, amazing time or anything like that. It's all about, our focus is you getting your team to the finish line, however that may be. If that means you need to go out and walk a couple of sections and you don't have anyone on course for a whole section and you all need to have a 2-hour break and then get back on course, that's okay. We just want you guys to get to the finish line, celebrate, and be really happy and proud of what you've been able to achieve together. Karaya, how are we going with questions?
I believe we've answered everything that's come through, so testament to you, Anna,